Well, Michael, again, we're trying this experiment where we're interviewing different practitioners where their level of expertise inevitably overlaps or correlates with what we do in the family law setting. So with that, who are we talking to now?
So next we have realtor and broker Javier Suarez. Very important to listen to this because it's very common where homes are sold during the divorce. So his role or the role of any realtor is very critical.
Mr. Javier Suarez, thanks for doing this.
Pleasure to be here.
Yeah, and pleasure to have you. We've been doing videos with practitioners that their area of or what they do and how it effectively overlaps with what we do in family law. So tell us a little bit about what you do and your experience and whatnot.
Well, I've been selling real estate since 2004. I have a marketing degree from Cal Poly, and I also have a law degree from ALU. When I got into real estate, it was during the boom in 2005. And ever since then, the aspect of the marketing degree and the law degree together combined and putting that into play and selling real estate, I thought it was a great opportunity to do that. So that's kind of how I got started. And ever since then, I mean, it's something that I love to do.
I would imagine that when you're working with clients, particularly within the family law setting, and they see the credentials, right, that you have a JD, so you have this law degree, that certainly helps, right, as far as adding to sort of the credibility, if you will, with regards to not just selling the real estate, but also having, at least broadly speaking, some context with regards to sort of the law, right, and how it may be applied.
I mean, that's a huge part because people don't realize that, and I guess is that you overlook that because when you're selling real estate, it's more like a transaction that you want to get done for the client. But when you think about it, property law and contract law is a lot to do with the contracts that you're signing with the client. So definitely plays a big role. And I think with the law degree, it helps me articulate and explain that to the client. A lot of people that have the experience, but the experience in addition to the knowledge, I mean, it's a combination that's unmatched.
Yep, it's a match made in heaven. So I want to ask you specifically, again, within the family law context, and I'm going to start with a very common fact pattern, right? So we have, for instance, two spouses that are getting a divorce, and they have this home, right? There's generally an option where one spouse might be able to buy the other out of their respective share of the home. And what I mean more specifically is, if two spouses have a home, and without getting too technical, right, they're presumably going to divide the value of the home.
Correct.
So if one spouse maybe wants to keep the house and say, well, we'll figure out what the value of the home is and I'll buy you out. But I want to speak more specifically to selling of the home. And under this hypothetical, neither spouse has the financial wherewithal to buy the other out. So they just got to sell, right? So if you're selected, for instance, as a realtor to list a home, can you talk about how you sort of manage the dynamic where you're sort of communicating with maybe the attorneys and the spouses themselves, maybe even where you have one spouse that's still living in the house and they are absolutely hostile to the idea, I don't want to sell it, I just have to.
Yes.
So speak to it.
That's a very difficult position to be in as the realtor. But again, if you've been there before and has been able to manage that situation, it just becomes second nature. So I've been grateful and blessed enough to have been in this position where I have to sell the home, and when that does happen, from the beginning, when they call me and they want to ask questions about how this is going to work and the process of the sale of the home, please keep in mind, this is what I always start with, that my job is to sell the home. I'm not here to take sides. We're all here to accomplish the same goal. And as long as I'm here to assist you to achieve that goal, that's what I'm here for. I'm not here to take sides. I'm a neutral party, and we can all work together to get to that point. Now, when the person is living in the home, there's going to be more communication with that person because that person is the one that's going to have to, take into consideration how long we're going to be in escrow, who's going to come see the property, when can I do the open houses. So there's a lot more communication with the person occupying the property. But as far as once we're in escrow and the process begins, everything has to be communicated to both parties. And once it does, me as the realtor, as a chosen listing agent, it's my job to make sure that I'm looking out for both of their interests, but in a neutral manner.
Well said.
That's it. It's that simple. As long as you keep that in the forefront, you don't take sides, neutral, and they actually believe that that's what you're doing, it's going to be easy.
Do you have any, do you have experience where you have what we refer to from a technical perspective, the in-spouse, meaning the spouse that's still living in the house, and maybe the other spouse has already moved out, got their own apartment or a new house, whatever, but they're going through this process of selling their home.
Yeah.
And in-spouse is like, I don't want to do this, I just have to, because there's really no other viable or practical option, right? So you come in and you need to maybe take photos and get everything prepped for it, but they are not very accommodating. How do you handle those scenarios?
It's true. It happens. I mean, you're never 100% ready for what's to come. We're all individuals. So, I tell my other agents, you got to be a chameleon, and it's so true when you're selling a home that's part of a divorce. So when that does happen, you just work with them, You kill them with kindness. I mean, I'm just a kind guy. Like, I feel like in any position that I'm in, I'm always trying to think positive. I'm always trying to look for the best outcome for everyone. So when I get that pushback, it's more so, when are you available? When does it work for you? How do you want to do it? What do you prefer? Give them the opportunity to make that decision. I'm just here to help. That's all I do. Helping hand. You take that approach, there's no way you're going to lose on that. And that's what I always do. And it always works, to be honest with you. I mean, you do get sometimes where, I've been in positions where I've been stumped, but once I am there, I figure out a way, and it always works out.
Great.
Javier, so you mentioned to Jason about being a neutral party and kind of the tactics that you employ to navigate through having two different parties, right? Something the case during the divorce. I want to talk to you about when you have issues with them, when they don't want to give in to what you request, or they're not cooperating, and you have to reach out to the attorneys.
Yes.
Talk a little bit about that.
That's a great question. So, I'm very proud that I like to make sure that I'm the one to handle the problem, right? That's why I'm getting paid. That's why they chose me. And that's why I feel like I'm put in that position to not call you guys, right? Unless if it's a legal matter, obviously.
Right.
But if it pertains to my duties as their realtor, I don't want you guys to get involved, right? But it has happened where, I've had a situation where I'd have to call, the attorney.
Right.
And that's only if it's something that that they request, and then I kind of help out, but 99% of the time, to be honest with you, I handle it, because it's going to be an escrow question, a title question, and that all falls under my umbrella as the listing broker, So very, very few times is where I have to pick up the phone and call the attorney. And I really do not like to do that, unless if it's a legal matter, I tell them directly, hey, you know what? You have to talk to your attorney about that.
That's music to my ears. If you can take care of it and we don't have to, that's great.
And that's why I know that as well, You guys are busy, Last thing I want is like, man, Javier, the client's always calling us. Why is Javier not doing his part? I don't want that, So I really strive myself on taking care of all the problems. It's a saying in our industry, turning off fires. And that's what we do pretty much every day.
Yeah. What about in a situation where, these folks may have a difference in opinion as to what the home is valued at? And I know, of course, you give them your opinion.
Yes.
But what about when you have someone that doesn't want to sell a home for a particular price, but the other person is open to it, right? How do you kind of put your input in there, and how do you help them come to a consensus on what the sell price will be, essentially?
So I love the price range aspect. When I meet with the potential client or with the client, I love the price range aspect, because it allows the market value or the asking price to interpretation. Let them tell me, right? So let's say $1 million house, okay? So I'm like, you know what? After looking at the property, walking the property, I say between $1 million and $1 million to 1.1. And then let the, one spouse say, well, I want 1.1. Who wouldn't, right? And then the other spouse say, well, $1 million, I'm okay with that, right? Like how about this? Happy medium, $1,050,000. That's one approach. But in the market that we're in, you got to really look into the climate of the market, right? before it was a lot hotter. Now it's slowed down a little bit. So that also, depending on the timing of when you're going to sell the property. So you just educate, provide the value, let them decide. Now, if you do have a difference in opinion as far as the price, then I like to work the middle, as long as it's nothing too aggressive or maybe, you're really not giving the value that it deserves. Just provide a happy medium and then maybe go one route and then, hey, if it doesn't work for 30 days, let's take the other route, So the beauty is that it's open. You don't have to really be firm on anything because the market dictates the value, not the person.
And I'm glad you mentioned the market, right? Because in our current market, and we were just talking about this not too long ago, the differences between the market now and perhaps what the market was, say, a year ago, right? And the new changes are taking place and how you, as a realtor and helping folks going through a divorce sell their house, how does the current market affect maybe your processes that you employ now in comparison to, say last year?
Yeah, I mean, now it requires a very educated, experienced realtor to sell a property for top dollar. When the rates were really low, like during COVID, for example, you put the house up with iPhone pictures and you're going to get offers. Now you need to have a plan, a marketing plan. You got to make sure that you're answering every phone call every lead, open every door, because that one door you don't open might be the buyer, so you really got to work hard to make sure not only you sell the house, but you sell the house for top dollar, right? When the market is great, then it's a lot easier, and I think, these moments where the market is tough really gets the top realtors to the forefront. Because they're the ones that are doing the most business.
Sure. Yeah.
That's really what it comes down to. And right now, that's the market that we're in. It's a tough market, But homes are still being sold. Buyers are still buying homes. You just got to really put your best foot forward.
Right. And you, with your marketing degree and then your extensive experience selling real estate, you have all the tools and resources you need to succeed in this market.
And I really appreciate you bringing that, because that's one of the things I love the most is marketing a property, like listing it. So listing agent, that's I think my forte and what I love the most, because I'm able to showcase the property on social media, the photography, the video, and really work all angles to get the property the most exposure. And you know how it is, the more exposure, the more eyes, the more potential offers, the higher the house sells for. So it's a combination, and definitely a marketing degree and all the experience that comes along with that goes a long way.
But Javier, as you may already know, in family law cases, particularly in divorces, when we're selling a home or when the parties need to sell a home, generally us as attorneys will provide a list of 3 realtors for the other person to select from, right? And then presumably the other person is calling these realtors and vetting them out, right? Usually when they call you, what kind of information do you provide to them, or how do you handle these calls?
So they have a lot of questions. Some are really good, some are just redundant, but I think what they're trying to do is get the best realtor for the job. And I respect that, because that's what everyone should do. Now, when the calls do come in, they want to know your prior experience, obviously the market that you sell in. I sell all counties, so my transaction history covers Los Angeles, San Bernardino, Orange. So I sell any county, right? But they either want to know, how you go about selling the property. But to be honest with you, it comes down to how much you're going to charge me, right? And that's kind of unfortunate, because me as a realtor, and I take so much pride in the work that I do, is I will negotiate that with the client, but I also do not want to undervalue my services. So as long as I'm fair with them and I answer all their questions and I feel like they feel comfortable with making their decision, that's all I can do, right? It's just allow them to make the decision based on what the information that I'm able to provide to them. But it does get hard when you get the call and they say, oh, you know what, I end up going with another realtor. It's kind of like, well, why? I like to know why, because that way I can also better what on the next one is how I'm able to capture that listing. But to be honest, most of the time I do get it. So I'm grateful for that. But yeah, definitely they want to know more about you as a realtor and what you're able to do as far as the services you provide and how much you're going to charge them.
All right. And it's understandable. Someone like you that has that unique skill set should understandably charge more. And you heard the phrase, you pay what you get for, right? So there's value in everything. There's certainly value in paying a realtor more commission,
Yes.
especially with a unique skill set like you.
Yeah. And it's a win-win, I think, because at the end of the day, I want the business. I want to make sure that I provide the best business, but then also potentially could be a client for life.
Right.
So if it's my fees are negotiable,
Sure.
but I'm definitely not going to be the cheapest guy, because then you're going to get what you pay for.
Right.
Exactly.
And when you do these sales through the divorces, can you briefly just explain a little bit about some of the challenges or the differences between selling the house during the divorce process, right, with two owners that are essentially opposed to each other, compared to when you sell a house just for anyone else?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, the one thing I love about real estate is that it's always happy moments, right? It's like, we found the house. You sold the house, right?
Yeah.
It's always a high five moments throughout the transaction, which is great. It's unbelievable to be in that position all the time. But in a divorce listing and you sell a home where the spouses are not high-fiving each other, then I think money is the biggest objective because they have expenses, right? And understandably, I mean, they're going their separate ways. They're thinking about their kids' future. So just get them the most, right?
Yeah.
Charge reasonable fees and get them the most. And I think they will walk away like, okay, we're in a good place. We're in a better place. No one wants to go through a divorce, I'm sure of it. But if they can walk out of the situation feeling like they got the best out of the sale of one of their biggest investments, I think it's a win-win.
So in addition to your law degree and your marketing degree, you're also a broker, right? So can you explain a little bit about the differences or the benefits of you being a broker as opposed to being a real estate agent working for another broker?
Man, I'm loving these questions, Michael. So yeah, that's a great question. So, as a real estate broker, I'm the broker of record for Suarez Realty Group, which is my brokerage. So not only am I a transactional realtor, but I'm also the broker of the brokerage. So I get a lot of deals that come in through the door, which is for all my realtors, all the agents that are under the brokerage. So in addition to my own personal business, I get to see so many different types of transactions from my agents. So the experience is in abundance, so for my own personal stuff, plus all the agents that are under the brokerage. And also, I'm a licensed mortgage consultant as well. So I deal with the mortgage side as well. So I pretty have a good handle on obviously the real estate aspect, but also the mortgage aspect because I'm a licensed loan officer. So if the questions come in where they might be like, well, how about maybe refinancing? I'm also knowledgeable in that as well. So it comes with an abundance of experience from all aspects of the real estate world, So, I mean, in the years of doing this with the marketing and law, it's a nice combination that I believe is unmatched.
Of course.
I mean, that's why I feel like I can provide the best service because what I offer, I believe it's a lot. It's great.
Good. That's a lot of good information, Javier.
Thank you.
Thank you for taking the time to come meet with us. And thank you for sharing all this wonderful experience and information with us.
Thank you for having me, man. Anytime, guys. I love this.
Of course. We hope we do this again.
Thank you. Appreciate it.